This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, rats, mold, and dangerous conditions. Renters living in dilapidated housing have little recourse. Ottawa bans open pen fish farming in BC, and an environmental group wants Nova Scotia to follow suit. And residents in North End Halifax get their first look at the city's proposal to turn a large block into high-density housing.
A few isolated showers on Friday, but overall a fine day shaping up and a nice start to the weekend on Saturday. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. It is no secret many tenants across the province are living in unfit conditions. As the housing crisis worsens, some people are dealing with things like rat infestations, gaping holes in the ceiling, or no running water. A CBC News investigation has revealed 2/3 of municipalities in Nova Scotia do not have bylaws to deal with conditions inside rental units. That means tenants have little recourse, especially in rural communities. Nicholas Sagan reports.
Ruth Harding finds these warnings hung on her doorknob every few months because her landlord hasn't paid the power bill. In mid-June, her electricity was shut off. She's been in the dark ever since.
It's coming up almost 4 years of hell as far as I'm concerned.
Harding lives in this 6-unit building. She and the other tenants have lost heat and running water. And when they ask their landlord for help, they're denied repairs. In Cape Breton, Jillian Arnold is unpacking after a whirlwind move. After a weekend away, she found these mushrooms and black mold growing in her apartment. But she was told the repairs would take at least a week.
I couldn't stay. It made my skin crawl. And I could just imagine what it was doing to my lungs and my respiratory system.
Before ending her tenancy with help from her doctor, she asked the province and her municipality for help, but was just passed back and forth with no resolution.
As you can imagine, I was quite confused at this point and didn't know where to turn.
A CBC investigation has found 2/3 of municipalities in Nova Scotia do not have bylaws to deal with living conditions inside rental units. They have building codes and fire safety regulations, but in 32 municipalities, there are no rules to enforce specific upkeep standards inside homes. Nova Scotia legal aid lawyers say this is a real problem. It means depending where a person lives in the province, their landlord is held to different standards of housing, creating major barriers when it comes to maintenance and upkeep. The province's residential tenancies program mediates disputes, but it has no enforcement branch, and inspections and investigations fall on municipal bylaw officers, according to the housing minister.
In terms of these questions about individual units and what's happening there, this is an area that is best managed at a local level, and the municipalities have responsibility to do that.
Some smaller municipalities say it's not that easy. They struggle with a lack of resources and enforcement.
When you don't have full-time bylaw officers, it's a challenge enforcing bylaws. So you can create bylaws, but if you don't have the capacity to enforce them, they're not of much use to anybody, right?
The province argues there is legislation for dangerous and unsightly buildings that can be used to enforce standards inside homes, even in municipalities without bylaws in place. But several town officials told CBC they interpret the rules differently, leaving tenants like Harding to fall through the cracks. Nicholas Sagan, CBC News, New Glasgow.
The Crown is giving up efforts to have the teen who stabbed 2 staff members at a Bedford high school sentenced as an adult. The stabbing happened on March 20th of last year at Charles P. Allen High School. It left a vice principal and another office staff member wounded. A year after the attack, the teen pleaded guilty to 2 counts of aggravated assault. He is to be sentenced later this summer. During a court appearance this morning, the Crown indicated they will need more time for that sentencing because they want to question the authors of 2 psychological reports. The sentencing will begin on July 24th, and without an adult sentence, the teen's identity will remain protected by a publication ban. Well, an online threat reported by an 8-year-old from West Hants has led to an arrest of a man in California. RCMP said in a news release today that they received 2 calls from the child in May. They told police someone was threatening to hurt them and their family unless they sent intimate images. Police learned that the person was located in California and worked with U.S. officials to obtain a warrant for his arrest. Last month, a 38-year-old from California admitted to victimizing more than 20 children, including the child from West Hants. Well, several charities are working together to build new homes for people who lost everything in both last year's devastating wildfires. Crews have broken ground on the property of a couple who lost everything in the Upper Tantalon fire just outside of Halifax. The new home is being made possible by Habitat for Humanity, the United Way, and Canadian Red Cross. The groups are helping a total of 9 families across the province affected by wildfires. The couple says this last year has been extremely difficult, but they're happy to soon have their home back.
Come and see this mess. All I wanted to do was crawl in that foundation and die. But she gave us hope.
We're here today because of all the support we've been getting from all these wonderful organizations and partners. And for everybody here, just for us, it's thrilling, it really is.
We usually try to help people. If somebody needs something, we'll help them. We're not usually the ones that take.
And the new home should be built by the end of the year. The Upper Tantalon wildfire destroyed more than 200 homes and forced thousands of people to flee. All right, Ryan, some spits of rain and then some heavier rain today, a bit of a mix.
Yeah, definitely. It came through really coming down with one line in particular that was really set up over western areas a little bit longer. That's where we picked up generally 10 to 20 millimeters here. A couple of spots exceeded that, a couple of spots a little lighter, and 5 to 10 millimeters further to the east. Temperatures, you can see high teens, low 20s, and that rain is now clearing off as we work our way through this evening. Just a couple of lingering showers, even some sunshine breaking through, especially through the valley right now, back into Digby County. So that line will continue to work its way out. We still have a chance for some showers on the backside of this low for Friday, though they're very isolated. Overall, Friday looks like a fine day. High pressure in control for Saturday. Looking further west, that system there in the plains of the U.S. That is what we have to contend with for Sunday, unfortunately, and perhaps even Monday. As you can see, tomorrow those shower chances will primarily be across northern areas, a little brighter towards the south. And as we look into the timeline here, you can see things clearing out quite nicely. There are those shower chances in the mix for tomorrow. And then as we look into Saturday, this is high level cloud, so it's looking a little more ominous than it will be. We will see some sunshine. Temperatures, again, likely into the low 20s for Saturday. A fine Saturday evening if you've got some outdoor plans. The rain really not rolling in until Sunday morning, and that is when it will come through with periods of rain. And then that system is going to take its time departing, unfortunately. Some lingering showers for Canada today, especially along the Atlantic coastline. We'll talk about that in more detail with your 7-day forecast coming up, Amy.
All right, so maybe this barbecue should be on Saturday.
Saturday is definitely the pick of the weekend, for sure.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, Nova Scotia Power customers will be on the hook for nearly $35 million related to post-tropical storm Fiona. The 2022 storm knocked out power for more than 400,000 Nova Scotia Power customers. In a pair of decisions released today, the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board approved a plan for the utility to recoup the money from customers over a 10-year period. About $25 million of the total is for storm cleanup and $10 million for damaged equipment. It's not yet clear what effect this will have on power rates. In total, Nova Scotia Power overspent by nearly $120 million in 2022 because of storms, primarily from Fiona. Premier Tim Houston visited a local high school today where he announced new supports for getting students into the skilled trades. And while on his tour of Cape Breton, the Premier would not say whether an election is on the horizon. Aaron Potty reports.
Premier Tim Houston wants students to know they have choices when it comes to their future careers. Here at Glace Bay High, Houston announced a new pilot program that will help teens find their way in the skilled trades.
This is a big deal. It'll make a big difference for our young students who can just really get on with what they want to get on with.
Starting this year, grade 12 students who have met all of their requirements for graduation at the end of the first semester can enroll in NSCC's pre-apprenticeship programs for electrical or plumbing. The program offers 14 seats for electrical students at the Truro campus and 20 seats for plumbing students at Sydney's new Waterfront campus. Waterfront campus principal Carla Arsenault says extra supports will be available to students entering programs early, including a dedicated navigator advising them in their transition and helping them to apply for trade bursaries. There will also be reserved seats for Indigenous and African Nova Scotian students.
While starting out, this pilot program may seem a bit daunting for someone only halfway through their final year of high school, I know that our staff and these supports will help these learners through their certificate program and on the way to a meaningful career.
Houston has spent a few days in Cape Breton this week. On Wednesday, he announced operational funding for a new PET scanner at the Cape Breton Cancer Centre. In light of this, Houston would not say whether or not he's looking at calling an election.
It's not something that I'm thinking about. I mean, we're just focused on delivering results for Nova Scotians, focused on healthcare, focused on education. We're here for that today. But just providing the government to Nova Scotians that they have a right to expect and put Nova Scotians at the front. I'm not thinking about an election. It's not something that I'm thinking about. I know the media is thinking about it, but it's not something that I'm thinking about.
The total cost of the 2-year pilot program is just over $584,000. It includes 9 months of training, with students expected to graduate with a trades diploma in November 2025. They'll also be given a 2-week break in June to celebrate their high school graduation. Erin Potty, CBC News, Glace Bay.
A Nova Scotia environmental group is continuing to push the province to consider shutting down open pen fish farming. The Healthy Bays Network says a federal government decision made last week should be implemented here in Nova Scotia, where the regulations surrounding aquaculture are enforced by the provincial government. The CBC's Paul Palmeter has that story for us tonight.
It's very simple. We have to get the damn net pens out of the water.
A panel of presenters all voiced their displeasure with how the aquaculture industry, in particular fish farming of salmon in open pens, is regulated by the provincial government.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans have reported on numerous occasions their concerns, the threats, and the risks, and yet the provinces and the industry ignore it.
Clark says it's a common occurrence for salmon to escape from pens and easily infect wild salmon stocks with disease. Last week, the federal fisheries minister announced a ban that will be put in place on open net salmon operations in British Columbia, effectively shutting down the industry by June 2029.
Here on the East Coast, where provincial jurisdiction rules, we continue to face the massive industrial fish farming expansion plans on the south coast of Newfoundland and, of course, here at home, where Cook developments at Liverpool Bay, Canadian salmon developments in St. Mary's Bay, and others would more than quadruple the number of farmed salmon produced in this province today.
It is bitterly ironic that the whole world is in transition against the traditional model of open net pen fish farms, and we here in Atlantic Canada appear to be oblivious to that.
Cook Seafood operates several open net salmon operations in the province, including this one in Bayswater. Cook's Joel Richardson says the company's Liverpool expansion is on pause after the Nova Scotia Aquaculture Review Board adjourned it in March until further notice. In his email, he went on to say the event held today was a farce, and the organizations gathered at the restaurant in Dartmouth were being dishonest with the public and were spreading false and misleading information.
This is an industrial feedlot operation just hundreds of meters from homes. And this is going to happen around this province. And I'll tell you, no one's listening.
Paul Palmeter, CBC News, Dartmouth.
A multi-million-dollar project is underway at the Halifax airport. Ottawa announced $8.3 million in funding for a new section for international travelers connecting to Canadian flights. The CEO and president of the Halifax International Airport Authority says she thinks that will lead to more international flights in and out of Halifax.
As a result of this investment, we're able to go to the airlines, we're able to attract those services on the wider body aircraft. We're seeing some of that now. We're going to have a really great summer with respect to our service into Europe, and that encourages them to take those wide body flights into Halifax. And obviously, if they can have a really convenient, easy connection process for their customers, then that's a benefit to them as well.
And I'll talk to Joyce Carter with the Halifax International Airport Authority about when travelers can expect to see these changes. That's our newsmaker just after 6:30. Well, Halifax is planning to transform a large block of the North End into a high-density neighborhood in the coming years. The Yonge Street district could see more than 11,000 housing units built, and now residents have had their say on what they want to see. Our Haley Ryan has more.
Dozens of people attended the open house sessions Wednesday to learn about what's to come.
So I got the notice in the mail and I was like, oh, that's very exciting. I get to kind of input what my new neighborhood is going to look like in the future.
The city is working on 2 parallel projects here. The lands between Allman and Yonge Streets could see about 5,000 housing units with a mix of low to high-rise buildings. Residents suggested more green space, bike lanes, better transit connections, and maybe a community center. Some aren't impressed with recent buildings and hope to see better designs.
I don't think we can get away from high-rise. That's a done deal. I think we need a good mix, but if we're thinking about climate change and we look at other cities like Vancouver, where we have green roofs and ways to absorb heat and deal with water, those things will all be issues for us.
There are great designs that are like in Montreal. So it's 3, 4, 5 stories, but they're family flats. So you have a big family flat. So you still have that community. You can still have your neighbors, and we need the green spaces. It's enough of these ugly cement buildings. We need character here.
Kazanavicius, who is blind, says accessibility improvements are key, like more sidewalks and safe ways to get through the large parking lots in the area. This is all happening now because of Halifax's major growth and housing need, and the city says the area is ideal for development. It's serviced, there are open lots, and it's in walking distance to planned rapid transit. Halifax is also planning for new infrastructure in the larger Yonge district and what's needed over the next 30 years to support 11,000 units, adding about 26,000 people. That includes bike lanes, utilities, and more pedestrian-friendly streets. Some are hoping those come sooner rather than later.
It's super important. Water, sewage, all those kinds of things. But there's an awful lot of development that can occur without a change in infrastructure because developers already own it. And I'm not sure that the parallel process is going to work well, but, lots of promises and who knows.
Staff will bring plans to council late next year, and the public will get to weigh in before final decisions are made. Haley Ryan, CBC News, Halifax.
Canada's defense minister is in Nova Scotia tonight. Minister Bill Blair spoke with business leaders at a breakfast event for the Halifax Chamber of Commerce earlier today. He shared a recap of the federal government's new defense policy, which was published 2 months ago. It includes $73 billion in promised funding for the military over the next 2 decades. Blair also talked about the importance of Halifax and Nova Scotia to Canada's military past and future.
It's a really important place in Canada, and one of the things I've learned, because I've examined the history of the Canadian Armed Forces, Halifax really is its heartbeat. It's such an important part of its history and its future. That's why it's good to be here.
Tomorrow, Minister Blair will be at the Irving shipyard where the Arctic and offshore patrol ships have been built in recent years. It's expected that he'll oversee the first piece of steel for a new class of vessels, the Canadian Surface Combatants Department. The department officials say more detail on that work will be released sometime tomorrow. A fishing crew from New Brunswick had a once-in-a-lifetime day on the Bay of Fundy. Have a look at this. A glimpse of a fin through the fog soon revealed a whole pod of killer whales. Jason Taylor says he's been going out on the water since he was 5 years old and has only ever seen one orca at a time. His partner Bethany Lewis said she wanted to see orcas since she was a little kid, but this was beyond what she hoped for. The orcas seemed just as curious as the humans filming them. Coming up, Harjit Sajjan denies reports that he prioritized the rescue of Afghan 6 during the 2021 fall of Kabul. And a trailblazing hockey player, an innovative Indigenous educator, and a pop superstar. The newest appointments to the Order of Canada. And there's a lovely pop of color on this Thursday. We've got Ryan up next with the weather forecast. We'll see you in a few. Yeah, I ran out at lunch, and my timing was not great. It was a little soggy out there.
Yeah, no, it's true. That was the wettest part of the day for the Halifax area for sure, with that line of rain that was coming in. As we said earlier, that dropped around 10 to 20 millimeters for western parts of the province, 5 to 10 millimeters for eastern parts of the province. A little less, a little more in some areas, but generally speaking, things have been clearing out now. Have a look at this webcam shot from a few
very
moments
much
ago.
so.
This is Digby, and beautiful shot there from Digby Harbor. Temperatures right now, right around 22 degrees with that sun and cloud mix. Pretty nice indeed. And temperatures pretty much into the 20s right through the valley and into the Halifax airport area, and then up towards the Northumberland shore, as well as good chunks of Cape Breton. Those southwest winds, they have been breezy today. They will subside as we move into tonight. And then what we're going to be seeing is a shift to northwest winds. And that'll really kind of set the tone for Friday, because this mugginess that's been in the air today, dew points have been high teens. So it's been feeling muggier for sure. That northwest wind will usher in a much fresher air mass for tomorrow. There's the sun, Digby, and all up through the valley and edging into Cumberland County now as well. Clouds have been pretty dominant the last couple of hours for the rest, but we've been seeing some breaks of sun anyway. And you can see that line of green working its way out towards Newfoundland. That's the rain. We've got those lingering showers that have been pushing through New Brunswick and into Quebec. And those will clip our area tomorrow. Best chances, as we said, will be for northern areas. This is the low that we're going to be watching for the weekend. And it's unfortunate that the timing of all this, but we will at least get a nice Saturday out of it. There are temperatures across North America right now. The heat is on across the south, and you can see temperatures kind of high teens, low 20s across most of Canada with this zonal jet stream from west to east. So slight risk of an isolated shower or rumble of thunder tonight, as again the activity that's going through New Brunswick will sail through just on the backside of that low. It's a pretty isolated risk. Looks like most of the action will stay to the north, but there is the possibility that we will see a couple of showers and maybe a rumble of thunder. So just be mindful of that. The best chances really have already departed. Now, as we look at tomorrow, sun, good chance of quite a bit of sun as we work our way into the middle part of the day. And there are those isolated shower chances that are going to be primarily across the north, but into Cape Breton as well. Temperatures ranging from around 18 to 22 degrees, those northwest winds, so coolest Inverness County, warmest Richmond into the Sydney metro area. Looking at a chance for a shower Antigonish and into Pictou County, up into Colchester, Cumberland as well. Edging into Cobequid Bay, Halifax, it looks like will be shower-free, temperatures near 20 degrees. The valley, just a slight risk, I think, tomorrow morning. You folks really then off to the races with a pretty nice day overall. Temperatures, again, high teens, low 20s. Now for Saturday, we will see some cloud cover trying to fan into the region, building those clouds in throughout the day, but overall a favorable day. Winds in from the southwest, so that's going to be noteworthy for sure if you were thinking about heading to the beach on Saturday. The wind won't be too strong, but looks like, in the 10, 20 kilometer per hour range, so certainly cooler in the sea breezes here, and the warmest beaches will be along the Northumberland shore, and that's where temperatures will be warmest as well. Now, as we watch the timeline of all this, that area of high pressure moving out, so it's clouds in the mix, no question on Saturday, but sun and cloud. And then as we look into Saturday evening and overnight, it does look dry. This is the line that we're going to be watching for Sunday. Periods of rain coming in. Now, note the showers on the backside of this low here. The low will move off to the east. This is where unfortunately the model ends with this model run. But I can tell you that these are the showers that are going to kind of linger through Monday. And then that system is going to kind of stall here for Newfoundland and just off the coast. And as a result, it looks like we will kind of see some lingering showers for Monday. That should say some showers there, and Canada Day should be there. Yeah, my mistake on that. But all this to say, Amy, Monday still remains a little in flux. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that things could still improve. Things could be a little bit damp. Again, it's only Thursday, so we're keeping our fingers and toes crossed for a more favorable forecast for Monday by the time we get to this time tomorrow.
Or just move Canada Day to Saturday.
Right?
Yeah.
That
You've got the power.
Yeah, well, we'll put the word in for sure.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourism Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismgaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Up next, I'll talk with Joyce Carter, President and CEO of the Halifax International Airport Authority, about a major upgrade she says will make connections smoother for some international travelers. That is our newsmaker. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News. The Halifax Airport is planning an $18 million upgrade to its international travel facility, thanks in part to funding from Ottawa. The federal government announced yesterday it would provide up to $8.3 million to the project, which promises to shorten some connection times. Joyce Carter is president and CEO of the Halifax International Airport Authority. So this project is adding a new floor for international passengers to make domestic connections. How will that differ from what is happening now?
So the difference from what is happening now is the new International Connections facility will be bigger. It'll be an enhanced facility. Right now, we have a small version of what we call our international arrivals area, so it'll be an expansion. That will allow us to handle more passengers as well on wide-body aircraft, so a substantial benefit with respect to cargo. And the experience for you as a passenger, if you're arriving at Halifax Stanfield through Canada Customs, it'll be an enhanced, brighter, bigger area that you're going to be arriving in. So really does have two benefits: the benefit from the passenger arriving internationally into Halifax Stanfield, but as I mentioned a few moments ago as well, the benefit from the additional wide-body aircraft and enhanced cargo imports and exports out of Halifax Stanfield.
So from a traveler's perspective, it's a bit of a time saver?
It will be a time saver. It's actually quite a time saver. So what will happen is when you arrive into this new big, beautiful facility, you'll be able to clear customs, what we call on the existing second floor. So in the hold room, you'll see an officer there to clear your customs process quickly, and you will be, as an arriving passenger, if you're connecting, then entered right back into the hold room. It allows you more time to obviously enjoy the experiences in the hold room, but as well to catch your connecting flight onto elsewhere in Canada. So it will be a time saver for both the passengers and for the airlines.
And can you explain why you think more international flights would come in as a result?
So Halifax is strategically located on the eastern seaboard. We have a huge advantage with our location and our connectivity onto Europe and as well to the US. It's been part of our hub strategy to grow it, and it's actually had incredible growth over the last several years. There's a small facility there that needs to be expanded, and so as a result of this investment, we're able to go to the airlines, we're able to attract those services on the wider body aircraft. We're seeing some of that now. We're going to have a really great summer with respect to our service into Europe, and that encourages them to take those wide body flights into Halifax. And obviously, if they can have a really convenient, easy connection process for their customers, then that's a benefit to them as well.
So have they committed to providing more routes and more times?
So right now, we currently provide into Europe, as an example, I'll just give you one example, is 9 weekly wide bodies into Frankfurt. And so coming out of the pandemic, the carriers have really changed how they move their passengers. Having that direct connectivity is really important to us. We have heard from every carrier that serves Halifax Stanfield internationally that they love the facility that is there now. However, it needs to be expanded. So absolutely, with the expansion, we very much expect to see more carriers using it. And those that are using it today, hopefully putting on added frequencies so that they can actually get their passengers through that quicker.
Now, the Minister of Transport says this project will create more than 4,000 jobs. What kind of jobs are we talking about, and when?
So those jobs, those numbers are by 2035 when we see the full benefit of the added facility. So as you mentioned a few moments ago, with respect to the new services, obviously it takes time to build those. Those jobs are going to be right here in Nova Scotia. When you think about exports and cargo, they're everything from the fishers, in our rural communities in Nova Scotia, to those who work at Halifax Stanfield. So our employees that handle those flights and process them every day, obviously more employment there, but as well, with respect to the cargo, huge opportunity for us to be able to export through these wide body aircraft and create those jobs with the exporters and the shippers all around rural Nova Scotia. One of our largest exports, as you may know, is live seafood. And so we definitely want to see that expanded. And with those 4,000 jobs comes about another $800 million annually in economic impact to Nova Scotia.
And when it comes to that new floor itself, when do you expect that to be up and running?
So construction has started, and we expect it to be completed in 2025. So as a passenger arriving in Halifax, our hope is that you're able to use that facility into the summer of 2025.
All right. Well, Joyce Carter, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it on this.
You're welcome. Thanks for your interest.
Coming up, Tim Hortons celebrates its 60th anniversary with a Timbit-themed musical. Welcome back. Former Defence Minister Harjit Sajjan is denying a media report suggesting he pressured the Canadian military to rescue a group of Afghan Sikhs from Kabul as the city fell to the Taliban 3 years ago. Sajjan says he never ordered commanders to prioritize Sikhs over others with more direct links to Canada. Ashley Burke reports.
It was total chaos in Kabul. In August 2021, thousands of people were trying to escape as Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. Canada's special forces were on the ground amid this scramble, trying to evacuate as many Canadian citizens as possible and those who helped Canada. But today, the Globe and Mail reported the defense minister at the time directed the military to help rescue more than 200 Afghan Sikhs, further down on the priority list.
Let me address the Globe article quite directly, because I'll be honest with you, it was utter BS.
Harjit Sajjan, now the Minister of Emergency Preparedness, says he did direct military to help these Sikhs and provided the military information about their whereabouts from an NGO trying to get them out. But Sajjan says he never pressured the forces to put the Sikh group ahead of Canadians.
It was an approved government policy to safely evacuate as many vulnerable Afghans as possible, which included obviously Canadians first, those who worked with us like our interpreters, and it also included vulnerable Afghans, which included religious minorities like the Afghan Sikhs and Hindus.
He thinks the reason any of this is even an issue is because he himself is Sikh.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't think I would be getting those questions if I wasn't wearing a turban. I've rarely ever even talked about racism and what it actually meant. But I'll be honest with you, it needs to be called out.
NGOs helping the Sikh group that was stuck in Afghanistan says they were approved by the government to come to Canada, and in the end, the Canadian military didn't reach them in time to get them out.
These are minority communities who are facing a dire threat from the Islamic State and had already been the focus of suicide attacks, targeted killings. These were the most vulnerable of the Afghan minorities.
That group says they saw no sign of favoritism, but the Globe and Mail says it spoke to sources who say there was anger on the ground that the special forces had to divert time and resources to try and help the Sikh group because of the minister's direction. They called it a logistical nightmare at a time when they were still trying to get Canadians home. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
European Union leaders signed a security agreement with Ukraine today. It comes at the start of a two-day summit in Brussels, where they'll set the strategic course for the EU for the next 5 years. Leaders from 27 European countries welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in person for the signing ceremony. The deal renews military, financial, and humanitarian support for Kyiv in the war against Russia. Despite gains by the far right in recent European elections and amid uncertainty from snap elections in France and the U.S. presidential vote in November. Ukraine also signed a security pact with member states Lithuania and Estonia. Voters in the UK are headed to the polls in a week. Conservative leader Rishi Sunak and Labour leader Keir Starmer met on the debate stage last night for the last time before ballots are cast. As Anna Cunningham reports, things got heated and personal.
Their positions on this debate stage have been decided by the toss of a coin.
At times, this debate did get really quite scrappy. They clashed on issues of tax, also immigration, as well as gender and Brexit. At the moment, all the polls are pointing in one direction, and that is towards a predicted heavy defeat for the ruling Conservative Party. But the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, really did come out fighting like a man who had nothing left to lose.
He's changed his mind on every major position that he's taken. Absolutely. He doesn't have the courage of his convictions and is not being straight with everybody now about his plans, if he wins power, to raise people's taxes. That's not going to do anything to restore trust in politics, and that's a choice for everyone at this election.
Sir Keir Starmer is the leader of the opposition centre-left Labour Party. Now, at times, he has been described by critics as a political robot, but this is what he said last night as to why he thinks he is the man for the job.
I think over the last 14 years,
politics has become too much about self-entitlement and MPs thinking about what they can get for themselves. And one of the important choices, and the thing that I would like to do if I'm elected Prime Minister, is to reset politics so that politics returns to public service.
Since 2010, there have been 5 Conservative Prime Ministers. The country has been through economic turmoil. There has also been Brexit, as well as numerous scandals. And in this final week, heading towards that vote on Thursday, the 4th of July, there is another scandal making the headlines. Allegations of betting by some politicians and also serving police officers on the date of an election before it was announced. Whoever gets the keys to number 10 Downing Street next week will certainly have an uphill struggle to restore the faith in British politics. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Governor General Mary Simon has announced 83 new appointments to the Order of Canada. They include trailblazing athletes, academics, and billboard charting performers. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, they're being recognized for inspiring generations of Canadians.
From a small-town Canadian girl turned global rock star Avril Lavigne to prolific singer-songwriter Danielle Lavoie, Canadian cultural icons are being recognized by Rideau Hall, joining a list of 83 new recipients to one of the country's highest honors.
When I first got the news, I was absolutely shocked.
Nice feed across the ice, shot, goal! Jim Kite!
Jim Kite was the first deaf player in NHL history. Now he's being inducted into the Order of Canada after decades championing the rights of athletes with physical disabilities.
There's so many people that told me that I could not do certain things because of my hearing impairment or my background or whatever. And I just had a little voice inside me say, oh yeah, just watch me.
Solomon Rat also being celebrated for preserving and revitalizing the Cree language.
I started teaching in 1984, and at that time, very few elementary schools or high schools were teaching the language.
The white dialect, A.
Rat went on to develop the first bachelor's degree in Cree at the First Nations University of Canada.
Young adults wanted to learn about their culture.
The significance is still sinking in for Bill Jansen, a Mennonite leader instrumental in the creation of the private sponsorship of refugees program.
There was a feeling we have to do something.
Mobilizing Canadians to support those forced to flee their country.
It just resonated with the people of Canada in a deep way.
Jansen helped thousands find a new home here, a country now saying thanks by honoring his efforts. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
New research is shedding light on why some people sailed through the pandemic without being infected by COVID-19, while others did not. Christine Birak takes a look at a study from the UK that's offering up fresh genetic clues.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, we've known not everyone who breathes in this coronavirus gets sick. Scientists now think they might know why. Based on a unique trial that involved infecting healthy volunteers with the virus, researchers found a gene that's highly active in people who never seem to get COVID.
This gene is in the family of genes that our body uses to show our immune system bits of pathogens. But the function of this gene is still undiscovered.
In a world's first challenge trial done at the height of the pandemic, UK researchers infected dozens of healthy, unvaccinated adults with a low dose of the original coronavirus. Then they closely tracked how long it took their immune system to kick in. In those who never became infected, researchers saw high levels of activity in a specific gene called HLA-DQA2. Scientists think it helps flag viral invaders to the immune system so fast it destroys them before they can replicate.
So what I think is going to happen now is you're going to have researchers all over the world buckling down and learning about this.
Researchers at McGill have also been collecting cells from people who've never had COVID, searching for a link.
It puts an anchor in the ground and says, we got to look at this and everything around it. So that's how major discoveries are made. But it doesn't mean that the work is finished.
While the virus has changed and vaccines, along with infections, have already shown our bodies pieces of this coronavirus, scientists say this new gene discovery could help invent new vaccines that prompt an even quicker immune response to COVID and possibly other respiratory viruses too. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, if you're a fan of Tim Hortons, you won't find the coffee chain's latest creation on the menu. That's because Tim's has added a new business, musicals. Eli Glasner explains.
Wow, you are all so good looking.
Inside this Toronto theater, influencers are getting a sneak peek.
I've been waiting.
We really appreciate you using your following to extend the reach of this really special product show for us.
The confusion understandable, since this musical is a double-double of corporate Canadiana. The last Timbit is about a group of Canadians battling over a Timbit while sheltering from a blizzard in Sarnia, Ontario.
That sign in the distance, what does it say? It says always fresh.
It may be based on a true story, but even the cast and creators didn't believe it.
My first question was, what? And this is absurd, and is this a joke?
The idea actually originated from a marketing firm who gave the creative team free rein, except
they'll come in and be like, actually, we need a bit more savory treats, not so many sweet treats mentioned.
In 2014, Tim Hortons was bought by a Brazilian private equity company.
The brand that Tim Hortons has...
This branding expert says Tim's has done a lot to connect the coffee chain to Canadian culture,
Have a seat.
including a recent collab with Justin Bieber.
I got it. Tim Biebs. This definitely is a protection strategy to land that Canadian brand.
As for the show, this critic says in a climate where theater companies are struggling, she welcomes the support.
If a major chain like Tim Hortons wants to step in and say, hey, yeah, we get an advertisement out of it, but we get to employ these amazing creatives. We get to see a new show come to life.
You gotta have faith in a little treat.
Some even see this as a taste of the future, serving up a new show with a heavy side helping of corporate sponsorship. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
I love how you always put a positive spin on things, right? You're working extra hard for the long weekend, though.
In Atlantic Canada,
Yeah.
15 years here in the East now, and it's glass half full meteorology.
Yes.
That's what it has to be.
It has to be.
For sure. So yes, it is definitely, there are lots of positives in the long range forecast. And let's first show you our viewer picture of the day. We're going to zoom in on Pomquet, and this is a beautiful
Oh,
shot
lovely.
here.
Those big round bales.
Fresh baled hay, nothing better.
Gotta love the smell of that, huh?
Rosemary, thank you very much for sharing. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. So tomorrow, definitely a nice day. Couple of showers, especially in Pomquet and up that northeast part of the province. We'll see temperatures into the low 20s. Saturday, as I said, is the pick of the weekend. No question about that. We are going to be watching then that rain to roll in on Sunday. And it does look like it will linger. And let's run you through the timeline here. So there's that system that is going to be coming through, bringing the rain for Sunday, and then some lingering showers on the back side of that system. We'll blow through the muggy meter there. It will be muggier on Sunday. Showers lingering for Canada today, and so we'll have to keep an eye on the radar and keep our fingers and toes crossed.
Most definitely. Well, cheval ski horses have been returned to the wild in Kazakhstan after a 200-year absence. It's part of an ambitious scheme to reintroduce the world's last wild horses to their original habitats. The first group of 7 horses was transported from zoos in Prague and Berlin earlier this month. The horses will stay in an enclosure for a year to acclimate and learn how to find water and food during the harsh winters. 40 more horses are expected to be returned to the area over the next 5 years.
The endangered horses once roamed across Central Asia, but eventually disappeared in the wild. They have already been reintroduced to native habitats in China and Western Mongolia, where they're thriving.
Well, that is some good news, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that is it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Take care.